A lot of sellers think that disclosures are just paperwork, and I'm here to tell you they're not. One of the most common reasons sellers get sued after a home sale is failure to disclose or that they under-disclose material facts and defects that could affect the home's value, desirability, habitability, health, or safety. And when that happens, second person who often gets pulled into the lawsuit, you guessed it, it's the seller's agent. That's why disclosures are not just a legal formality. They're one of the most important trust building and risk management tools in the entire transaction. Handled correctly, disclosures protect the seller, protect the agent, and help keep the buyer moving forward with confidence. Handled poorly, and they can create fear, destroy trust, and in some cases, just kill the deal entirely. Today I want to walk you through the 3 disclosure mistakes that can quietly hurt a home sale and what smart home sellers should do instead. Hi, I'm Frank Spencer, and after more than 3 decades in real estate, I can tell you this. Buyers usually don't walk away because the home has an issue. They walk away because they feel surprised by it. And that's a completely different problem, because once a buyer starts wondering what else they may not have been told, the transaction becomes harder to hold together. And that's why the way a property is disclosed, framed, and explained just matters. Because every home has something. Maybe it's dated, maybe it has a stigma, maybe there's a feature that needs explanation, maybe there's a past event that buyers need to know about. The issue usually isn't that the problem exists. The issue becomes how it was handled. Mistake number 1, waiting too long to address the issue. The first mistake sellers make is waiting too long to address something that should have been handled up front. A lot of agents take the approach of saying as little as possible early on, then burying the difficult part later in the disclosures and hoping that the buyer either doesn't notice or just doesn't care. And that's almost always a wrong move. Scratch that. That's always a wrong move. Because when buyers discover something late, even if it's fully disclosed, their reaction often isn't about the issue itself. It's about trust. They start asking, what else am I missing? Why am I only hearing about this now? And that loss of confidence can be far more damaging than the actual issue. Many agents wait until the offer comes in and then quietly disclose it later. I have to tell you, I chose a different route in one listing in Rock Point. The sellers had lived in the home for about 40 years, and his final wish was to pass in the home that he loved so dearly. His family honored that wish. Rather than hide it from the buyer, I addressed it directly in the property description with this line. The owner's last wish was to pass in his home of 40 years. His family graciously honored that wish. That home sold to the first buyer who came through. Why? Because there was nothing left to discover, nothing left to weaponize later. It was handled honestly, respectfully, and without drama. Transparency didn't hurt the sale, it protected it. Mistake number 2, framing the negative poorly. This second mistake is talking about weakness in the wrong way or drawing attention to the wrong thing. Every property has strengths and weaknesses, and the job is not to pretend the weakness doesn't exist. The job is to frame the home accurately while guiding attention toward what really creates value and makes the home special. I had a listing once where the home had been beautifully modernized. The baths were remodeled, the windows were upgraded, they had plantation shutters, the ceilings had been scraped smooth, the flooring was custom wood throughout, and the wall, a key wall, had been removed to create an open concept dining and living area in a home built in 1969. Now, a less experienced agent might make that the headline, or over-explain it, or apologize for it. I didn't. I focused the marketing on what had been improved, what had been modernized, and what made the home feel current and livable. The kitchen was shown honestly in the photos, clean, uncluttered, dated, but it wasn't given unnecessary weight. And the result? Home sold in 4 days, over asking, with no buyer pushback about the kitchen. That wasn't because the kitchen stopped being dated. It was because the buyer's expectations were set correctly, and the overall story of the home was stronger than the flaw. This is important for sellers to understand. You see, not every weakness needs to become the center of conversation. Mistake number 3, confusing disclosure with damage. And this third mistake is assuming that disclosures automatically damage value, and they don't. Poor handling damages value. Surprise damages value. Distrust damages value. But clean, strategic, honest disclosure often does the exact opposite. It creates confidence. The confident buyer moves forward more easily. A lot of sellers fear that if they disclose something clearly, they'll scare people away. Sometimes the opposite is true. A buyer who understands the issue sees that it has been handled professionally and doesn't feel manipulated. That buyer is often more comfortable proceeding than a buyer who feels like they are uncovering problems one layer at a time. This is especially true in today's market, where buyers are more selective and more cautious than they were just a few years ago. Today's buyers do more reading, they look harder, they compare more carefully, and once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to recover. So what should sellers take from this? 3 things. First, disclose early when the issue is meaningful and likely to affect perception. Second, frame it properly and intelligently. Don't lie, don't hide, but do not accidentally make the weakness bigger than it is. And third, work with an agent who understands the difference between legal disclosure and strategic presentation, because both matter. The truth is, a lot of home sales are not won because the property is perfect. They're won because the buyers feel informed, comfortable, and confident, at least enough to keep moving forward. That's where strategy matters. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's this. Buyers can handle imperfection. What they struggle with is uncertainty. A dated room, manageable. A sensitive history, manageable. An unusual feature that needs context, manageable. But surprise? That's where deals start to wobble. And in many cases, the way an issue is introduced matters more than the issue itself. So if you're thinking about selling and you know your property has something that may need explanation, don't panic. Just make sure it's handled correctly. Because the goal isn't to pretend your home is flawless. The goal is to present it honestly, strategically, and in a way that protects buyer confidence from the very beginning. If you found this helpful, and you care about making smart real estate decisions here in the San Fernando Valley, I post weekly videos covering market updates, local insights, and real strategies designed to help homeowners and buyers succeed. And if you're thinking about selling, I wrote a guide for you. It's called Avoiding a Failed Sale, How to Sell Smart and Walk Away Without Regret. You can download it at my website, mrchatsworth.com/ebook. And if you have questions about disclosures, pricing, marketing, or there's a topic you'd like to see me cover, drop it in the comments. I read every one of them, and I respond personally. So until next time, guys, I'll see you around the neighborhood.